guys. Welcome to the Web3 Native Podcast by LongHash Ventures. And today we're bringing you the first episode called DeFi Real Talk on the ground in Asia. So here's where we want to explore what's really happening on the ground in Asia, along with four of the leading lights in the DeFi space based in Asia. So with us, we have Arthur from DeFiance Capital. We have Mable from Multicoin, Khai from SCB 10x, and TM from Coingecko. So we're going to go to intros in a bit. I'd just like to set some context for today's session. So DeFi projects are growing really quickly in the current climate. And one of the recurring themes we keep hearing is that projects and founders are saying, we want to focus on Asia growth, right? Asia strategy, we want to build this Asia community. But often this kind of Asia's this whole black box where the teams don't know where to start, but they just know it's important. So today I want to shed light onto this topic and hearing from people who are actually on the ground from various countries in Asia. So let's go to each of the guests and start with a quick self-intro and what you do and also where you are based. Shall we start with, just alphabetical Arthur?
Hi, I'm Arthur. I'm the founder of Defiance Capital. Defiance Capital is one of the most active and largest DeFi-focused investment fund based in Singapore. I've been an active participant and investor in the DeFi space since the very beginning. Witnessed the growth of the entire DeFi space, such as Aave from the launch to right now 20 billion in the deposits, early days of synthetics, Kybernetic world, sushi swaps, continue to invest in the DeFi protocol around the world.
Thanks, Arthur.
I guess next one is myself.
Yep.
Hi everyone. My name is Mable. I'm from Multicoin Capital. I sit in Hangzhou, China, where the rest of the team is actually around different places in the United States. We run really two funds. One is the hedge fund, which deal with fundamental driven liquid strategies, versus the other part is the venture fund, where we invest in early stage private projects, token projects, and companies. DeFi is part of our big thesis, three big theses. And then I definitely think we've been spending a lot of time, thinking about what are some of the product strategies, comparing Eastern ones to the Western ones, and also what really kind of gives a project more success versus the other ones in one specific region, although DeFi is a global liquidity. So I'm happy to be here and discuss with all of you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Panich. I'm the CIO and Chief VC at SCB 10x. We are the digital technology investment arm of Siam Commercial Bank, which is the biggest and oldest bank in Thailand. For me, I'm looking after both venture capital and venture building. Starting from last year, we identified that blockchain and DeFi is the area that can have potential disruptive future to the bank. So we would like to focus on that area to prepare the bank, for the time that that thing could be much different. I'm an engineer by background, and before SCB 10x, I actually have been in investment management for 14 years, investing in technology sector, but more on the publicly listed side. It has been a lot of fun in the last 1.5 years at SCB 10x, and looking forward to involve more and more in DeFi space.
Myself, I'm TM, co-founder at Coingecko. So Coingecko is basically a cryptocurrency data aggregator where you're going to find out about prices, any sort of market data for any tokens out there. You can look it up on Coingecko. So DeFi has been something that we've been focusing on for quite a bit. We've been diligently trying to integrate, trying to make sense of all the data that is happening on chain, and we're trying to aggregate them and display on CoinGecko, and we're excited to be in this discussion to talk about DeFi in Asia and also where this space is going.
Awesome. Thank you everyone for the very quick self-intro. And so just to recap, I think we seen, we have people from Singapore, from China and Hangzhou, from Thailand, and also in Malaysia, and myself based in Singapore as well. conversation very real, right? So we want to go with some very real examples and very practical tips. And so let's warm up with a bit of that. So the first question is around the widespread kind of assumption that the Asia community is underexposed to DeFi projects. And in that, mainly we have these like token holders or speculators who haven't really used DeFi products. So maybe just to understand a bit like anecdotally, among the people here, what are some of the DeFi products you are using or we are using on a daily basis or weekly basis? And what do you see people in your circle, in your community using or doing? Would like to start maybe reverse order TM?
Yeah, sure. I think myself, I've been just using DeFi like a regular user. Like I'm not a degen user, so to speak. I mean, I just like use things like borrow lending, swap services whenever I want to like swap into tokens and stuff like that, just for convenience, right? So I'm out of that kind of user. But of course, like if I talk to people around me, I've seen a surge in retail users that are coming in. Obviously, the retail users when they come into crypto, they always get on board through a fiat gateway, a fiat exchange, for instance. And then when they are, adventurous enough, they will then graduate and then go into DeFi. But the places where they tend to use DeFi will be like Binance Smart Chain because the gas fee is more acceptable. And they start to see like products like PancakeSwap, Venus, those are the usual suspects when it comes to retail users. But when it comes to even a crypto native, we are always on the lookout for the new cool stuff that niche, new kind of products other than similar products that has to happen on Ethereum being copied over on another blockchain. So I think what we're seeing right now is sort of like going into maturity where there's this foundational product like borrow lending swap, which is around for a long time, and that's something that everybody will use. And of course, there's always this experimentation that we need to keep going to find new use cases to push the space forward.
Yeah, you mentioned Pancake, Venus, people that you're using. What about yourself? What are some stuff you're using regularly?
Yeah, myself, like I those products as well, especially because sometimes the yield is good and it's cheap to use the service. But of course, on Ethereum, I use that a lot as well because a lot of my a lot of the assets that I'm used to are all there. Uniswap, Sushi, Compound, Aave, those usual suspects. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, for me, I think Asian community is actually very active using DeFi products. I can see that from the circle of people around me, and also myself personally use DeFi a lot. And I really believe that being an active user of DeFi protocol is really a good way for you to actually understand, different products out there, the use cases, the white space, the gap from like a different existing products. And that actually can help you becoming a better investor as well. Yeah, so for me, I believe in using what I invest. So definitely Alpha Finance is what I use a lot for yield farming, especially like now they relaunch Alpha Homura V2, which I think is very innovative and I love using it. So I use that earn strategy to earn yield for stablecoin, which right now can give like high 10%. And I also use that level yield farm like Wi-Fi and ETH pool in doing swap. Beside that, because we are the investor of Terra ecosystem, we invested into Anchor protocol, which is stable rate saving. So I'm also active there as well. I deposit my UST, which is Terra USD stablecoin, into Anchor to earn stable rate 20% fixed APY, which I think is very innovative because other protocol, the interest rate quite fluctuate, but this one is always stable. And also recently, they also have insurance that available from Nexus Mutual if you actually want to insure your deposit on Anchor. So I think that's very good as well. Yeah, you just pay like 6.3% and you can get it insured. Yeah, so in general, I stake my Alpha. I'm Alpha Wolf Warrior, which means that I have more than 50,000 token of Alpha. And I also stake Luna in SCB10X Terra node. Yeah, so I love using DeFi product and always love using the one that we invested in.
I think next one is myself. Yeah, I think in China people like to there are a few types of people, right? So I think to echo with what Ty said about alpha, I think there were quite a bit of ETH whales because they're miners and stuff. They're looking for high yield, and that's why alpha V1, was there because like they really solved the problem for ETH whales to find a good yield for ETH. So that was like really for a really long time, like a lot of people using alpha V1. And then there's a different bunch of people who were more like institutions, like they were looking for yield for their idle stable coins because obviously not everyone is Bitcoin based, and some of them they do have some stable coins. So there, like they obviously could do Curve was like one of them, like people all know. But there were some other ones like I think there's an BSC. Suddenly forgot the name. But I guess that the caveat is that people generally like to have the enhanced yield for different stable coins. So that's another group. And I think for retail, they comparing to the Western audience, they are definitely willing to go to wherever that's cheaper with cheaper gas, which means in addition to Uniswap, SushiSwap, which we were really familiar with on Ethereum, they also are super open to PancakeSwap, where even myself do a lot of trading there. And then, the Matic Quick Swap was another one. Sorry, Polygon was the other one. And then Sushi, even like it has a lot of transactions and TVL on Polygon. So I think, generally speaking, I'd say people here in China are very open to multi-chain and especially the EVM chains transactions and wherever that they can get like a really good kind of experience. And I think lastly, there is like a very small group of people, but it's steadily growing, who are trading on top of the decentralized BitMEX, such as Perp. And Perp is on XDAI right now, also on the Ethereum. But I think, that's a growing kind of audience, which I thought it was pretty interesting. Yeah, kind of summarize.
Yeah. I'll start with among my circle, what DeFi products are people using. I think actually we're really seeing them using a variety of them. Most people started from using blockchain, but as the gas fee increased over the last few months, a lot more people start getting priced out of it. And as a result, most of the people with I would say less than $1 million of balance start experimenting with the DeFi application on other blockchains such as Binance Smart Chain and recently Polygon as well. Myself, I have been using all of them as well just to try it out and experimenting with them. Back to the whole Asia community is underexposed to DeFi. I think it's like, first of all, we need to know that Asia is a very big region. And I actually have thought of a good way to segment it. I will actually segment Asia community to, first of all, the English speaking community. And the second one is the Chinese speaking community. And then there's others. Yeah, sorry to do. So I think that the English speaking Asia community are actually the fastest to catch up with DeFi. Especially in Singapore. There's quite a number of DeFi whales in Singapore because Singapore have a very friendly tax system for interacting with crypto and DeFi. And so that actually make the whole process easier. And yeah, Singapore is just a pretty digital nation in the whole. And we're also seeing other country like Philippines, all this thing. They actually been earning some of their income on DeFi and NFT as well, such as Philippines and Indonesia. I think they are quite a big, decent group of NFT player that's playing Axie Infinity, and they've been actually generating income from playing this game as well. And so this, I think, also making them interacting with DeFi as well. And then you have the Chinese speaking community, which actually has been growing very quickly over the last 6 months, and to be a very big forces as a user in most of the DeFi applications. So I would say that a very significant chunk of the BSC community is likely coming from the Chinese community, and they are definitely growing because they see where the opportunity is. And then we have the others, and I would say that this is the other segment are where it's lagging behind quite a fair bit, especially for Japan and Korea. These two countries actually was one of the earliest adopter of crypto, and they have a lot of big major exchanges. The user base is quite wide, but they still have not really been using DeFi in a major way. I think there's a few reasons behind it. One of this is like the historical reason that most of the knowledge of DeFi has been communicated in English, and they are just do not interact with the English speaking community that often. A second thing is just that the whole culture is just not that conducive to try out new things. Yeah, actually a lot of the Japanese crypto users I spoke to say that it's not regulated, so they are not that keen to try it out. All of that doesn't seem to be able for of the other Asia country. While India is actually also growing very big, but I will actually also put India as part of the English speaking community. Those that who speak English, they usually get up to speed DeFi very fast and use it. Yeah. So that's how I would say among the Asia community in terms of DeFi adoption right now.
Yeah, thanks, Arjun. Actually, that's an insightful segmentation. Definitely, I think the English speaking and then the localization and then the local culture of each country definitely affects the rate of DeFi adoption. And anecdotally, I think is very aligned with what you're saying. And maybe let's try to see whether there's some data backing it up. So perfect segue to TM. We know that Coingecko is definitely directly interacting with a lot of users. You have a lot of data from on-chain and so on, and even from your own website. So do you have some sort of breakdown of behavior that gives us any insight into this?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that I could see being very obvious is to also rehash what Arthur mentioned with regard to the Philippine user base playing XD Infinity. So look at the breakdown of the most popular pages in Southeast Asia, for example. Philippines is one of the highest, and then what do they look at? They look at things like SLP, which is the breeding token in XD Infinity, and also the XD Infinity token itself. And while it may not seem very obvious at first glance that this is not related to DeFi, but the fact that XD Infinity, the game, has cracked the play to earn model really, really well. In the Philippines, during COVID and even before COVID, people are always looking for ways to, increase their income share, right? When you're in Southeast Asia, for example. So they found a way that they can just play this game and be able to sell the resources that they accumulate to someone else and then be able to tap into DeFi, right? Naturally, you have to use things like Uniswap to sell your tokens and then go onto a fiat gateway to cash out your earnings. So that's what we are seeing right now. And then of course, like the second highest like page views are things like PancakeSwap, right? It's everywhere, right? This is happening in Indonesia, Vietnam, India. So this shows that a lot of the retail people are really just looking at BSC and looking at cheap ways to make use of all these services and find yields all over the place. But also top it up that I think the way I see it also we segment users also based on like this crossing the chasm kind of curve. Like there is this early adopter, late majority, early majority, and then the laggards, right? So which is very similar to what Arthur put it. But this could also be applicable towards the entire world. Like within Asia itself, there's very, very specific problem. So like you just bring in a swap service into say Philippines, for example, it wouldn't work the same way like you bring a swap service in the US. You have to find out like what is it that they're looking for. And in this case, like for XP Infinity, they found out that people in Philippines have to play a game and they found out they can earn money from it, and that sort of like creates a problem. And I think every country in Southeast Asia has this sort of things that we need to figure out. When it comes to South Korea and Japan, I think also like as Arthur mentioned, why there's not much interest in DeFi. I think also because that historically they've always been very familiar with forex trading, so they love to do high frequency trades on the exchange, which is why when they see DeFi, maybe they're not so used to. So yeah, those are some of my viewpoint.
Yeah, do you have some specific numbers potentially? Asia versus the world between these different countries.
Yeah, I don't have the exact number on top of my head, but looking at continents, something that I see from time to time is that Europe as a whole is like one of the largest, and then followed by the US and followed by the Asia. But of course, within US, it's skewed by perhaps North America, and then in Europe, it's skewed by say like Germany or those larger countries. And then in Asia, I think Indonesia is the one that is bringing in the largest population, and a lot of them are really like experimenting in the BSC ecosystem.
I see. So let's say something like Pancake, for example. Roughly, how many users are coming from? Are we talking about like 1/3 of entire PancakeSwap's like Indonesians, or are we talking about like 10%?
I need to look up the figure. I don't have that with me at this point. Yeah.
Anyways, but definitely it's from what we hear, it's a very significant, right? I think just based on populations should be quite intuitive.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Tim. That certainly brings a lot of confidence to that. And now, of course, we have to address the elephant in the room, which is the Chinese community. So we understand that China, in many respects, is quite a unique case. Right? It's like a walled garden in a way, you know, like the whole internet, you need to use VPN for many sites are blocked, right? The social media is totally different. You use like WeChat, live stream, you use like Bilibili instead of like Crowdcast or YouTube. And like even the news sites, right? You consume from like Chain News or Mars Finance, Lianwen or Jinse Caijing instead of like CoinDesk or the blog. So everything is almost like a parallel system. So Mable, given you are in the middle of all of this, what's your take on this Chinese community sentiment and trends in DeFi? And let's get very specific as well. You know, what are some good examples of projects who have successfully grown a real community there? What did they do right, or what did they do wrong that we can learn from?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely given a lot of thought around this. I think generally speaking, for Chinese speaking people, people like we kind of was joking internally that we have an updated thesis for our open finance, which is like, you know, we should invest in projects that do stuff. So what does that mean? It has like a few connotation around it. First of all, it's obviously, you know, the projects are constantly giving a lot of updates to the community, so that like people are constantly in the know like where they are, even if it's like, you know, half-baked product. But at least like they have the interaction with the community. And then second of all, like they do have a lot of like various iteration of their product itself. And then they basically just let people try out, you know, version 1.1, 1.2, and then constantly taking feedback from the market and iterate from there again. And also more beyond that, I think a good example is sushi. So sushi compared to uni, I actually wrote an article in the past. I thought that was kind of summarized what really the contrast was. Like, so for sushi, they really kind of navigate the market via a lot of operational strategies versus I think Uniswap was focusing more on the product angle. Like it was focusing on iterating the meticulous tweak of whatever, you know, from V2 to V3. Obviously there was like a big, you know, giant leap, you know, in between, and a lot of design was put into the thought of that. But there's, you know, a large gap in between. You know, people don't know what's going on in between, and people just, you know, wondering, and nobody really can give an answer for that. Versus sushi, they like to engage with the community. They like to let people know monthly or weekly what they've been actually doing, what are the newest development on the roadmap, and then what are some of the, you know, added feature to enhance or complement the user experience for the AMM and whatnot. So I think that's like really, and then also they co-marketing a lot with the project that, you know, launching with them. For example, I think Onzen and Miso that's, you know, launching tonight. I think that's like those are a really really good example compared to Uniswap. I don't think there's any way to judge it whether one way is better than the other one, but just like I think the sushi swap kind of route is better fit for Asian or specifically Chinese community. People like to have a lot of update from the DeFi projects. I think maybe Alpha was another kind of example. Like they are just the kind of team that like they constantly try to identify where are the problems within the market, and then we're able to deliver new products to solve the market. Those can be very very niche pain points, but those are well addressed with their features or products, you know, that deliver from Alpha Finance Labs. So I think that the community also really like that. So kind of summarize my point there. I think the Chinese community really like to have the kind of more operational strategy focus and more smaller steps in the product update, rather than you give them a very well thought and then like fully baked product, once in a while, and then you just disappear in between. I don't have much interaction. So I think that's probably one of my biggest observation over the past, I'd say, like 1 year or two.
Awesome. Yeah. Because when you say like they communicate like sushi, right? But it's like the Fair Lunch project. So who actually communicates, right? Like the community took it out themselves and they wrote content in Chinese, they moderate these group themselves. How did they come to do all this stuff?
Yeah, so this is another interesting thing that I wanted to point out. For many of the projects that I think were thriving in China, they usually have a China-based China lead. For sushi, there was someone who's she's part of the team, but then like she's leading a lot of effort on. She doesn't name herself as China lead, but at least like she's a native speaker. She delivers all the content in Chinese, and then even I think right now, if I wasn't mistaken, the website itself is even translated into Chinese. So I remember there's like a small incident like a year ago when someone used compound. They don't understand what one of the racial men, and then they just accidentally get liquidated. So I thought that was a really interesting contrast compared to what Sushi is trying to do. Like they try to really deliver the materials, the marketing materials, the monthly update in the corresponding language. I think China was probably one of the biggest market for them. I don't know really the kind of actual number because I don't have the data, but I think they realized this is like super important to have the native customization, and I thought that was a really smart strategy.
Awesome. Thanks, Neil. A lot to learn from there. I see Arthur kind of like agreeing a lot. You want to jump in with some reactions or comments here before we go to you?
No, I would echo what Mable has said. Yeah, I think there's really a lot on the execution side, and also trying to put more different product feature inside one single app to become a super app instead of like the more like a specialization. I think this seems to be what the Asian community has been more used to.
Yeah,
that was my thesis as well.
Nice. Some clear, very strong thesis here. Now, coming to the English-speaking side, Singapore. So we have this tiny country here, but somehow we're punching well above its weight, right, in Singapore. So there's this huge concentration of talent and capital that's like really world-class. You mentioned quite a few whales here, right? And of course, recently we know Alex from Nansen also moved here. And I mean, yourself being based here, one of the leading lights also. So what is up with Singapore? Like, why is this little island becoming a crypto hub?
A lot of reasons, but I think the first reason is that Singapore traditionally, especially over the last 10 years, has just been cementing its status as a financial hub, and also to a big extent wealth management hub as well. So as a result, like the whole policy is just very friendly to investor, and also it's a good city to live in. Like it's stable and good for bringing up families. So as a result, I think among Asia, if you want to talk about financial hubs, there's really Hong Kong and Singapore. In Hong Kong, given the recent uncertainty, I think just that a lot of people have been looking at Singapore as a better option over the last few years. And I think that having no capital gain tax is also a big draw. If you were to count on it, like among the developed countries that without any capital gain tax, I think there's only less than 5 of them. And Hong Kong and Singapore is the main two, and then you have New Zealand and some Middle Eastern country. So naturally, I think that attracts a lot of the crypto talents here, because I think the fact that you do not need to pay capital gain tax make a major differences in your decision making, and also to a big extent. And I would say recently that I actually just attended. I probably shouldn't say that, but yeah, I attended some private session, on crypto and DeFi organized by Central Bank of Singapore. So it actually has been more. You will notice a very different approach taken by the regulator here compared to regulator elsewhere. Like I would say US regulator, as a matter of fact, are a lot more prosecutorial. Like if they think you are wrong, they will go after you. civil lawsuit or even a criminal lawsuit. But in Singapore, if you're if you're illegal, you do something illegal, yes, they'll go after you. But generally, like if you're doing something, it's probably not 100% illegal. They'll usually try to understand how you're doing first before like, okay, we are gonna bring you to court and bring you to jail. So I think people know that if I do something here, as long as I'm not doing something outright illegal, uh, it's something that's more innovative but might be more frontier. At least I will not be put into jail immediately. So I think that's also one of the key attraction that people feel more safe building stuff here that might not be 100% complying with the existing regulation, but it's also not something that's malicious in nature. People feel they have slightly more freedom to innovate here as well. And I think last but not least is just it's just a good place for the smart and rich people to base here as a tax domicile and all these things. So this naturally and slowly create a growing network effect. Smart people talk to each other and they form something here. And the major crypto company also see it as a very attractive base to set up their regional headquarters here. With the recent implementation of the regulation piece, what we call the Payment Services Act in Singapore, it given the centralized crypto exchanges a lot of regulatory clarity. So they are able to operate with a legal status here. So as a result, Coinbase, Gemini, Kraken, they all hire a regional, or say Asia Pacific head that's all based in Singapore right now. So that definitely helped to grow the ecosystem here a lot more. And also, DBS, the largest bank in Singapore, also announced that they have a crypto offering services that just launched late last year. So definitely have given a lot of legitimacy to the whole crypto space in Singapore.
Yeah, there's so much happening here. From like the private sector, like I said, like some of the largest banks, the regulators engaging, and then the people moving here as well for the tax reasons and so on. Although, like you mentioned, right, as a fund management and wealth management kind of hub, it seems that a lot of the firms here are like the trading firms, right, the hedge funds, the whales, and in terms of projects, still we don't see as much, or you think there is more like moving or should come?
I think that it's already punching above its weight given the population size, because it's a numbers game, right? The more people, the more software engineer you have, the more likely you are going to have a successful startup from whatever sector. So I think Singapore already have like a few, I think probably less than 5, but a decently successful DeFi startup, like Kyber Network, Switcho, and a few others as well. I think there's a few emerging, and they're probably anon. They're also based in Singapore. So I think given that it's doing well, but I definitely more can happen. I think that you guys, LongHash, are doing a great job to accelerate that as well.
Thank you very much. Yes. All right, we have some time, so maybe we can speed up a bit and move to Thailand. Well, speaking of institutions now, we have an excellent case study already among us with making that successful transition. So there's a very incredible story here. Thai, could you share about how did this SCB10X come about from like an institution into this kind of like venture building platform? And then what are the implications, or what do you see among the other institutions in Thailand or in Asia?
Yeah, sure thing. So I guess for us, at the beginning of last year, we were actually looking at different type of disruptive technologies that we could invest in and potentially disrupt the bank. And we came across DeFi while we were looking at the blockchain space in general. And we actually really amazed by it because it has everything that traditional can be like credit lending, asset management, insurance, trading, derivatives. And we were like, wow, if we are not careful, our bank can completely be disintermediated, and then the two lender and borrower could just do business with each other via smart contract on blockchain. So we like, this is kind of like self-defense that we have to do the study now on what's going on. And yeah, probably like we should really understand what's going on, find partner, try to see whether there's a way that the traditional finance, DeFi integrate together or something, and potentially like if we could become a disruptor ourselves in the DeFi space. Yeah, so that's the genesis of why we now become quite active in DeFi. And that's also the reason why beginning of this year, we started the $50 million blockchain and DeFi fund to specifically focus on this area so that we could invest with both strategic reason and also financial return reason. We amazed at the growth because when we started out in March last year looking at DeFi, at that time, the total value lock was only $300 million. And now it's like DeFi Llama is already $180 billion. So the growth, I think, would just become even exponential from here. And therefore, we have to really study this area and prepare the bank and find partner. Yeah, for SCB 10X, we are not just an investor, we are also the builder as well. We have developers in-house with strong technical capability. We would like to invest and then participate in the protocol. We invest and then participate in the ecosystem that we invest in. So for example, for Alpha Finance, because the team is really small and they innovate very fast. So we actually send our developers to go help them, with Alpha Homura. And that was wonderful because we also get to learn from Alpha Finance as well about DeFi. And for Terra ecosystem, which we invested into Anchor recently, we also quite active right now. We launched the validator node for Terra so that we could help, secure their network and also help bring stability and transparency into the blockchain network. And on top of that, right now, our developers also develop DeFi projects for Terra so that, we could help expanding Terra ecosystem. Yeah, so in general, right now, we actually talk to a lot of corporates in Thailand who now interested in DeFi because they saw a lot of token, especially like Alpha and Band protocol from Thailand, right, went up 10 times, and they're excited about it, and they would like to know what's DeFi. So at SCB 10X, we actually kind of like ambassador of DeFi. Our people to go educate corporate in Thailand about DeFi 101, things like that, yeah. In general, Asia, in terms of institution-wise, we see a lot of institutions that have been quite active with their venture capital, their corporate venture capital investing in blockchain, but we haven't seen that many invested already in DeFi. I think we might actually be the only one. But we think that this space is we really amazed by it, and we would like more institutional to come in and see what it's like.
Yeah, it's so incredible that SCB became like such an early adopter, I think, in the DeFi space. I think we all agree it's still very early, right? So how actually come about, right? That political will to like just do it and jump into it. And are you seeing a similar reaction among the institutions you're talking to?
Yeah. In terms of SCB, we are quite innovative and progressive bank because we invested in Ripple since 2016. And then we not just invested in Ripple, but we also bring Ripple to use as well. So we use RippleNet, to do like a payment and remittance. Actually, I could send my money from Thailand, from SCB Bank to DBS Bank, use RippleNet. And also we use the on-demand liquidity that use XRP as well to do payment and remittance. So that type of progress has been there. And in general, like the bank is very receptive for the new technology. And we actually have the CEO of the bank actually on SCB 10X board. He's the chairman of the board, so he actually knows what's going on. And when we present the new innovative technology, he, really like and would like for us to actually going forward to do investment and to really understand what's going on. We get very much support from the board and from the management of Siam Commercial in order to put this forward. Yeah. In general, I think that institution they still study right now to see the risk and what could happen if they invest in DeFi, how they have to think about like in terms of risk management, reporting, AML. Yeah, so I think it is something that might be slow progress, but I would think that there will be more and more institutions coming into DeFi to participate into the network.
Awesome. And we're certainly looking forward to that day where more institutions come in. I notice we have barely a few minutes left, so I'm just gonna like shrink the remaining few questions into one kind of a summary. So we've heard so many great insights today, right? From all the way from like the data to like the retail to institutions and in various parts of the countries in Asia. So we also talk about some very practical steps to get started. At LongHash Ventures, we're actually putting together an Asia strategy playbook so that teams know where to start as well. We'll certainly incorporate many of the insights here today and bring that to the founders. We have also identified certain networks, like of course our own Asia DeFi network. There's a China chapter of the DeFi Alliance, which is great. There's IOSG's Kickstarter program, which has a lot of great people in Asia as well, and our own accelerator program. So we're going to pull together all the service providers here, media, translation, institutions to connect with. So in the long run, still, it's best for everyone to have their own organic communities and serve as leaders from there, right? To wrap it up, do you have any kind of like very specific practical tips for teams or founders to grow in Asia, to get you as a user or like you think has worked? Just like some very practical tip, and then we'll wrap it up. Should we go to, maybe start with Arthur this time?
Yeah. Don't have anything specific. I think probably others can start.
Okay. TM?
Maybe not specifically for Asia, but it applies in general, right? So I think right now what kind of excites me, I think there's a lot of problem that needs to be solved, is the universe. So we are seeing a lot of traction in other blockchains. A lot of ecosystems are being built. I think right now, at least right now and prior, a lot of the projects are being copied over from Ethereum into all these different chains. And there's a product market fit in the sense that Asian user base find this very appealing because of the lower cost gas fee, easier to participate. There's a easy on ramp. But now that you've already developed all this ecosystem in various different places, what's next, right? So I think that this fragmentation issue with regards to you want to utilize 2 to 3 different chains at once, you want to make a single transaction where you can borrow on one chain, swap on the other one, and then use it on another chain, and then hold a receipt on the chain that you want. So there's all these issues, right? So I think that missing gap is where the opportunity probably is moving forward. But in the grand scheme of things, I think for anyone looking to build a DeFi product, I think looking for a niche that is untapped, like something that is not something that anyone has done before, just to cater to a small group of audience, is probably the way to go, because right now there's just a lot of saturation in terms of competition and whatnot. So I guess I don't know how this applies to Asia, but I think it's general where you want to just zero in onto a niche, a small use case, and then grow from there. And when you ask me, I think multi-chain has a lot of problems that need to be solved with regards to fragmentation that entrepreneurs could take advantage of.
Multi-chain, cross-chain, clear niche. Very nice. Khai?
Yeah, for me, I want to see more development on infrastructure or like cross-chain communication. Just feel that there are a lot of DeFi app or dApp innovation in the last 1 year, but the infrastructure caught up. Yeah, I'm also interested in L2 and all these like cross-chain communication projects that could happen. Yeah, looking forward to see more in this area.
Mable? You're mute.
I was muted. Yeah, I think I just want to build off what TM just mentioned. I think people here in Asia, they are less ideological. They're more practical. they'd like to see the product really delivered. I think the reason behind why people like to have multi-chain was not just because they want to see the thing everywhere, but more like they just want to use it regardless where the application is sit at. They are less kind of like focusing on whether something is more decentralized versus something is more of a POA type of chain or that kind of thing. So I think that's really what they want, looking for. They want like rapid iteration. They want products that can be having some new features every now and then, that they can test it out and give feedbacks, and the team can really be interacting with them. So I think that's one of the thing that I think Asian community would really like. On top of that, I think hiring someone who speaks the local language is actually also very, very important, because I think in Asia, as I wrote previously in another article, I think trust is like Asia is a very high trust community, as in like people really like to have FaceTime and real interaction. And at a post-COVID world, traveling is obviously hard, so you can't go there. But at least like having the FaceTime and to be at a lot of the AMAs, a lot of the offline panels and conferences, like those are also pretty pivotal. I think it's actually more important for Eastern community to see that compared to the Western. I think Western they're very kind of open to Twitter discussion and Discord discussion. I think that's just like by nature, it's an East and West dichotomy. Yeah, and then even just like getting exposure to the local KOL who have a lot of followers. I think those are also like pretty pivotal, as I think the DeFi space has grown to become more community driven than institutional driven. So these key opinion leaders, the influencers, their opinions, whatever they write, is actually matter as much as what the institution said. So I think that kind of summarizes my thoughts.
Thanks, Mable. Right, want to wrap up, Arthur?
Yeah, I'll probably add that to echo everyone's view. One thing I'm most excited about is actually, I think the scalability solution is gonna be ready within the next 3 months, I would say, even for Ethereum. So I think it's the industry or the space, the DeFi space, is actually ready to onboard millions or even tens of millions of users over the next 6 to 12 months. And I think this is something I'm very excited about, because this movement have been growing very quickly, actually even faster than what I've expected. And I think it's actually going to accelerate further from here. So yeah, I think that a lot of the activity we saw is just going to increase exponentially, and the scalability solution is going to help this to accelerate. So yeah, this is something I'm very excited about. Yeah, and I think for Asia, it's just a lot of communication is needed and localization. I would say that I hope that someone can penetrate the Japanese and Korean community. Yeah, so that I think DeFi is all the most productive and sector with the most obvious use case. And I think it's a pity that they have not been able to interact with it as much as the other communities. So I do hope that they participate in this and they see more usage there. Yep.
Indeed. Wow, we've covered so much. So I think we can call it a day here, and thank you so much to everyone to share your insights with us today and join us in taking the time. Just before we leave, do you want to just share where can people reach you or follow you, maybe your Twitter or website, wherever you like to share? So, Arthur?
Yeah, I'm most active on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Arthur_0x.
Yeah. Should we go around, Mable?
Yeah. Likewise, for the I guess like English speaker, I am mostly active on Twitter as well. Mable_Jiang. That's my Twitter. I guess like on top of that, please feel free to follow my podcast on Apple Podcasts. It's 51% by Mable Jiang.
Yeah, do check it out as well. Khai.
Yeah, I guess Twitter as well. Yeah, Thai Panich. You can find me.
Okay, and TM?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at TM Lee, or you can just swing over to Coingecko and just interact with our team members over there. We are always ready to help as much as we can. Yep.
All right, looks like crypto Twitter is the way to go. Once again, thank you so much, everyone, for your time. This has been the Web3 Native Podcast, first episode on DeFi Real Talk on the ground in Asia. And I hope all of you and all of us have learned something here today and can go ahead and build some awesome stuff in Web3 and DeFi. See you again next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.